Hey, this is Christopher, and in this video we're going to talk about the S&P 500 and why you should invest and make easy money. 2 years ago, I had never really made any investments before. It had only been in my own companies. I felt like investing in stocks was not really something I wanted to focus on. More interesting just to put all the money in my company and just stick to that. But then I remember I watched some YouTube videos and I was getting a better understanding what the S&P 500 is, and then I was like, okay, let's do it. So we're gonna cover a few things. First, just a brief info to what the S&P 500 is. Then I'm gonna give you some examples of how much money you had if you would have invested 5 years ago or 2 years ago or just the last year, including my example of what I invested. Then I'm gonna give you some recommendations to what system to use. So the S&P 500 is the 500 largest companies in the US. And over decades, they have roughly made return of 10% more or less. Sometimes more, sometimes less. And this is a great way to invest if you don't know much about stocks, because if some stocks are not performing or companies, then the other ones might perform. And in this way, you're not putting everything on black. It's kind of playing it more safe, but still a little less safe than just having on the bank account. That's basically how it works. And the good thing with this is that the statistics is that there is a return of around 10% over decades. It's not just the last 5 years, it's like the last 50 years or more. So it's a really safe way to invest. And there's also many other index funds, but this is just the one I invested in, and that's why I want to focus on that one in this video. So if you would have invested $10,000 5 years ago, then you would have today $20,620. So it's more or less double up, a little bit more than that. And that's roughly a return of 15% per year, basically by doing nothing. And again, there's so little risk in this. And that's kind of what I realized. And you don't need to be an expert and invest time in this really. That was the first example. If you would have invested 10,000 2 years ago, then today you would have 12,780. So you would have made almost 3K in 2 years by doing nothing. And again, if you would have taken that amount, let's say you had $100,000 just sitting there and you would have invested that, then you would have made $30,000. I would say pretty easy money. So what I did was that 2 years ago, I invested $20,000 more or less. And then today, the value of is $26,000, a return of $6,000 more or less in 2 years. It's not bad. And again, it was just $20,000, because I think there's a lot of people out there that have money just sitting in the checkings account. They don't know how really to allocate the money in the best possible way. And I really feel investing in the S&P 500 is one of the best things you can do if you just want to start out with something safe. All right, so you're a bit curious now and you're wondering, okay, this sounds interesting, but where do I start? And there's a couple of options here. So I used Moomoo and Revolut for this. First, when I was living back in Europe, I used Revolut for this, and that was super easy. I dropped the link below that you can use. And the same with Moomoo. Moomoo I used in the US, and when I signed up, I got some free stocks. And yeah, this is also really a great option and what I would recommend if you're based in the US. I also found a few other options that I think is good choices, but this is the companies I would recommend. You could also look if the bank you use today has the option for you to invest through them. Just be aware sometimes about the commissions they get and like what is really the best way to do it. That's why I chose Moomoo, because the conditions are pretty good here. So that is really the way to get started, and just show you here. So if you go to Moomoo, as one example, you have here their website, and you can easily sign up, and then you're basically just good to go. And if you make a small investment, you can get some free stocks, as I mentioned. Also, Revolut is super easy. There's really no problems with this. Have a referral link with some extra benefits, so check that out. I hope you found this video useful. Again, I'm no expert in investing stocks, but this is really for beginners out there that is similar to me, that is curious, have some money sitting and want to try to make the money grow. So I hope you found this useful. Again, I share some links beneath. It would be a big help for you to subscribe or like this video. And that will help me continue making good content here on the channel. So thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next video.